Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my good students of BSc English Linguistics. Last time I uploaded a video on lecture 2 for the first paper, Emerging Trends in Sociolinguistics. And I discussed in two lectures, I discussed, I think, 1 to 14 questions. The one question was left that was linguistic consequences of multilingualism. So today I'm going to discuss that. I'm sorry I was absent for a very long time because the last video I uploaded in the month of May, and now I'm uploading after many months because I had been somewhat sick, and then I had a tour to Malaysia where I lived almost a month, and then I had to go back for 1 week to Pakistan, and then I had to go back with immigrant papers where I'm a national for my children, and then I had to come back and I to my foreign university job, and I in another country where I'm doing my job, and this way I was busy in the last few months, and I wasn't able to upload any video because I was too busy. So anyhow, again we can start from there. And I'm very thankful to some of the students who have been asking questions time by time on Facebook for Applied Linguistics group. I had one of them. His name is Samu. I forgot that. Let me see. I can. I think I have a lot of comments on Facebook, but Samu he was asking for. Most of the students were asking why the video was stopped and why you have not uploaded, especially BS English language and BS English linguistics. A lot of emails also I received, and a lot of on the Twitter also different types of questions. But someone has a different question. He said he's the final year student. He's last year in BS English linguistics, and he asked that he wants to do master abroad. So that's why I have. If you see the Voice of Overseas Pakistanis on Facebook, my English news articles I'm writing on English. So I wrote why education abroad, especially in the subject of linguistics, is very expensive. So I give different reasons. That was actually I uploaded for Mr. Samo, so that other also should have this type of question. They should understand why education in linguistics in Pakistan and India is not very expensive than other countries. If you go to Europe, you go there. For example, when I went for a PhD in Malaysia, I had an idea that but just 2 million Pak rupees are enough. But when I finished, I had already spent more than 2 crore Pak rupees. So if I had been in USA, it could have been up to 4 to 5 crore. A man can set up a factory, big factory in on CPAC with this amount. So are you gonna get back that money? Because nowadays PhDs are not paid very well, especially in Pakistan. Oh my God, it's just very few salaries and not too much, and they don't have jobs even for PhDs. Many PhDs they left Pakistan and they came back and so anyhow, I do not want to linger on your lecture. So last time we discussed linguistic consequences of multilingualism. So far we have focused on, last time, sorry, we discussed question number 13, and the question number 14 is linguistic consequences of multilingualism. Some students, they ask me why you are, this is a question there. The students were asking me why you are uploading PPTs. We don't need just so many girls, they ask this question. We are in the kitchen and we have our mobile and we switch on mobile and we listen your talk on on linguistics. So this is very interesting for us, and this will become about topic and many things we know. So we don't need to see PowerPoint. Okay, I said, okay. So this video, I'm not making PowerPoint, just a lecture on linguistics consequences of multilingualism. Okay, that's the question number 14, and that's from sociolingualism. That's Emerging Trends in Sociolinguistics. That's the first paper of this course. There's an elective course for English linguistics, but most of the students they take it. That's why I started from it. I'll almost discuss all the papers, all the chapters of BS English linguistics in my videos. Okay, let's start now. Question number 14. For the first paper of emerging trends in social linguistics, the first chapter, question number 14, linguistic consequences of multilingualism. Okay, so far we have focused on social and socio-political consequences of multilingualism. Perhaps the best developed field of study in this area is the effect of one language, okay, on the other. So these effects are manifested at all levels of language, grammar, phonology, lexicon, pragmatics, the use of language in communication and discourse. I'm talking about the level beyond the sentence, okay? And then if we see, now first I will discuss lexical transfers and their integration. If you can see, early research centered around the lexicon, vocabulary. Lexicon means vocabulary, okay? What words were borrowed from one language to other? The outcome was frequently washing lists of words, which were sometimes rather repetitive, okay? However, grammar and phonology were also dealt with and played a prominent part in the overall models proposed. One of the book I read by Van Rich and Hogan, they have proposed earlier too many years ago, in accordance with the normative definition of bilingualism. Current until fairly recently, bilinguals were actually expected to be double monolinguals. Okay, what is the meaning? So monolingual meant that they should not mix their systems and they should only switch between the languages deliberately. On the one hand, those areas of vocabulary where lexical uh, transference took place were described. It occurred mainly where language 2, L2, which we call L2, language 2, context or situation differed from that in which the L1 had been used. So that is very clear. On the other, if I can discuss, attempts were made to differentiate between those borrowings that were essential and therefore permissible and those that were unnecessary and therefore unacceptable. Okay. So, however, it could be argued that lexical items are only transferred because they are needed by a speaker, because no exact equivalent is available to them or to create a particular stylistic effect. So that's one of the reason. Okay, I can say far more significant than the actual lexical transfer itself is the type of degree of integration into the semantic, grammatical, phonological, and graphic. Graphic means writing and spelling system of okay, recipient language. Phonological integration involves replacing some sounds like phonemes and phoneme realizations. Okay, and then we can say uh, sound sequences that are non-existent in or peripheral to the recipient language by more usual ones. There is a good deal of variation in phonological integration. Everybody knows, depending on the speaker's command of the sounds of recipient language, the desire to keep the two systems apart, and how much the item is accepted as a central part of vocabulary of the recipient. Okay, I'm talking about recipient language, because we are talking about the language. When the recipient language has gender marked articles, we can say, and adjectival and noun inflections. Okay, transferred nouns are assigned a gender according to one or more of the following criteria. I'm talking about natural gender. Okay, for example, we discuss Italian, ill teacher or la teacher. Italian in Australia, So they say ill teacher, law teacher. Okay. So gender of semantic equivalent in the recipient language, Lee job or Lee travel, Lee France, Lee high or Lee placid, French in Australia. These are the actually words. So bilingual homophone. Now we discussed bilingual homophones. Here are some examples for bilingual homophones. The roof, the rough, this is a reputation, despite thus Dutch, German in Australia. There's German in Australia. Okay. And suffix is used, does a department, I ruler, feminine, CF ruler. That's Greek in Australia. Okay. You understand what affixes? Affixes are, what are the affixes? Prefixes and suffixes. Okay. For prefixes before, suffixes in the end. You must understand. But this is very simple grammar. Okay. Uh, Noun plurals and past tenses of verbs are formed. What it is formed according to particular rules, often I think indicating how much the transfer is felt by the speaker or community to be part of the recipient language. For instance, the past participle, sorry. Uh, for example, past participle Gashrinkt is more recognizable as possibly foreign than Gastrunk for shrunk. I'm talking about in German in Australia. Okay. In writing lexical transfers, the spelling system or script of the recipient language may be implied. For example, Miffy, Miffy, Miss in Germany, Miss in German. In Germany they speak, but it means in German language. Or Madzet. Madzet means budget in Greek language. Okay. When a transfer is integrated, so that's one of the things that we are going to discuss about the transfer. So when a transfer is integrated semantically, okay, the lexical field, the recipient language changes. For example, in Australia, fattoria is a standard Italian, means small farm, has widely assumed the meaning of factory. An English form has been integrated as farma to denote a farm in the Australian sense. Okay, so fattoria is here semantics transfer where a meaning has been transferred from a word in the other language. So semantic transfers actually you have to see they are actually we can say them are due to interlingual identification where there is a Norfolk phonological or partial semantic correspondence and could be seen to constitute a very high degree of integration. They are used by people deliberately, avoiding language mixture, and are particularly prevalent in close networks of the speakers. Okay, whether they are from Germany, from their Greek, or they are any other France or whatever it is. So this portion is finished. Now we have to go for grammatical transfers and grammatical change. Okay, that's we have to discuss now. In context situations, especially where the minority language is not maintained very well, and there is a considerable isolation from the heartland of the language, grammatical change will occur quite rapidly. This may include a gradual a typological change, say from subject verb or mixture of verb second and subject object verb to subject verb object. I mean, I'm talking about the general typology of the dominant language. Okay, so there are tendencies in that direct as early as the first language. We can say it. Generation in Dutch English, bilinguals, and in the second, the German English, bilinguals in Australia. Okay, the more advanced change in Dutch being attributable to both typological factors drift towards a Dutch syntax. Okay, syntax is very important, determined by a fixed order of sentence elements due to the loss of case marking as in English. Okay, and social linguistic wants greater language shift. Okay, I can give you some examples of greater language shift. Grammatical change may include the use of the masculine singular adjective, okay, as an unmarked adjective instead of an inflection. Some second generation Italian speakers in Australia and the US, or the overgeneralization of one gender or of one plural marker, and even the loss of verb inflections, okay, which we can say in some second generation bilinguals in Australia. Okay, these all things were discussed by Klein in his book, which he wrote in 2021, and Gonzo and Saltarelli. That's one of the best writer of England. He wrote in his book in 1985. Petoni also wrote in 1985 the same about. Now we already I did another point that is that should not be left, should not disappear from my mind. I discussed in my previous lecture, number 2, code switching. So that's very important. Code is very important. You know? So when, for example, my language is Urdu, and when I'm going to speak English, there's a code switching from Urdu to English. Okay, so that's automatically done. Code switching involves production in more than one language within one sentence or between sentences within a stretch of discourse. It often occurs within structural constraints which may language specific or even universal. Okay, it is said by Myers Cotton in his famous books on sociolinguistics, which he wrote in 1993, one of the famous book which was taught in Pakistani universities for many years. When linguistics was introduced, applied linguistics was introduced in Pakistan first time. I think that was introduced maybe 87, 88. First time some people came like Dr. Zafar Iqbal in Zikri Multan. They came with the PhD degree from England, and some other people came from USA because it was a new subject. Even up till now, this is applied linguistics is a subject, mother of all other, about English or all languages. Applied linguistics is the mother of all. It is often motivated by the social variables of code choice. Okay, by a symbolic, for example, us, them. If you can see, us, them. For example, can be in Urdu us, but can be in English them. Same. This is code variation. Functions in a conversation. Okay. See, I can say code switching is frequently facilitated by grammatical convergence between the languages of the part of speaker or community by trigger words of ambiguous affiliation, said by Klein in 2017 in his book. Now we have to see another thing. This code switching, because I discussed in detail code switching during my last lecture. You can go back and see what is code switching. Okay, code and code switching. So now, regarding the third point is intercultural communication in multilingual communities and regions. That's very important. Okay. So what can I say? Intercultural communication constitutes communication between people of different cultures, okay, including the effects of different sets of communication patterns on one another. In regions of close cultural context, such as the Balkan and South Asia, as we are, groups of unrelated or only distantly related languages will form group of languages known as, you can say, spark binding, which will influence one another in structure as well as in the lexicon. It was said by Baker in his book, The Effect of Sociolinguistics on Different Cultures. The influence will extend to the communication patterns of the language. Okay, so that was written by Nostopny in his book on immigrant societies for with regard to sociolinguistics. So in where he discussed that in immigrant societies, the dominant language will tend to affect such patterns. For instance, the second and later generation in such countries as the US and Australia will tend to give up distinctions in pronouns or other forms of address, often overgeneralization, the informal T pronoun, and first names. While in a multicultural society, there will be convergence toward the communication patterns of the dominant language. There will be I think people of vastly different cultural backgrounds communicating in that language as a lingua franca, okay? Uh, like India, Pakistan, okay? Englishes, word Englishes. So, yeah, English is to be spoken in Pakistan and like a lingua franca, okay? And even when the people move from Britain to America, so when now American commentators they are making commentary, they say, okay, he do, they forget these things, okay? They do not forget. There's modern culture, okay? Okay, they does. So what can we say? The language is this is a change in varieties of languages. So also us and them. I give you one example. It can be that's why most of the languages have difficulty in direct and indirect narration. So that's one of the reasons. Uh, so their discourse structures, length of turns. I'm talking about languages of lingua franca. Okay, so this I'm talking about T pronoun and first name. Okay, multicultural society. So their discourse structures, length of turns in conversation, ways of maintaining and appropriating turns, tendencies towards overlapping speech, choice of complex interaction sequence uh, that can be such as a directive, such as apology, and complaint sequences, okay, all of which include other speech acts, are all strongly influenced by their cultural value systems, okay. So that's all. One lecture is enough for about the last question, linguistic consequences of multilingualism. I told you what are the linguistic consequences of multilingualism. Lingua franca is one of the example. Englishes, word Englishes, one of the example. So due to lexical transfers and their integration, first one I told you, okay, and second one I told you grammatical transfers and grammatical transference and grammatical change, okay. The third one I told you code and code switching. I gave you example us and them, blah blah. Okay, and then last I discussed intercultural communication, multi-language communities and regions. Okay, these communications like lingua franca, like word Englishes. So every English is right, no English is wrong. You cannot say why the word is laboratory in England, why the same word is laboratory in America. So it's because of varieties of languages, okay, and code switching or sometimes linguistic consequences of multilingualism. So that's one of the reasons. Anyhow, thank you very much. Do not forget to subscribe this channel and be ready for the next question because this chapter is finished. We will go for a variety of languages. That is chapter 2 for emerging trends of sociolinguistics. Next time we will discuss it, inshallah, hopefully. Thank you, and do not forget to buy this channel. Thank you very much.